signed, sealed, delivered? Maybe by the end of the week. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Deeper than the headlines.
The answers you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It's sure to be the hottest ticket in town. An event being put on by the Calgary Chamber of Commerce this Thursday could be one of the top political events of the year. That's where, according to news reports, Prime Minister Mark Carney will announce his government is signing a memorandum of understanding with the Alberta government, led by Premier Danielle Smith. If anyone would be in the know about such a deal, it would be the Natural Resources Minister, Tim Hodgson. He was at a House of Commons committee this week, but wouldn't deliver the scoop.
I don't deal in hypotheticals. If you're referring to the Alberta government has said they will work on a proposal. They will bring it in the spring of next year. And when they bring that, they have to do the work just like any other proponent. And if and when that they have done the work and they've got the support of First Nations and they have the support of the jurisdiction, we will work with them to see how we can make things happen.
According to news reports, here's where the two sides agree. Alberta has agreed to a stricter industrial carbon tax and to invest billions of dollars in carbon capture and storage. Ottawa will include carve-outs for Alberta on the clean electricity regulations, and it would all but end the oil and gas emissions cap. Both are long opposed by Alberta. And then there's the issue of the West Coast oil tanker ban. Reports suggest the MOU will have an exemption. But if that's what's in the deal, you couldn't get Tim Hodgson to spill the beans.
So what I'm willing to say is that we have been talking with that proponent, the government, the potential proponent, that government of Alberta. We have been working on, as has been widely reported, memorandum of understanding. That is a work in process right now. I think we are getting close to a place, and when that gets done, we'll have some more clarity.
BC Premier David Eby is not a happy man. He's been the odd man out as these negotiations have been happening between Ottawa and Alberta. He was asked yesterday if the Carney government was fattening up BC, since BC now has 4 projects on the major projects list. Also, that the BC government would have no choice but to accept another pipeline.
There's a couple of components to this. First of all, I'm not threatened by a project that doesn't actually exist. The entire proposal from Premier Smith is a communications exercise. There is no company, there's no money, there's no route, there's no nothing. And so, I try to keep that front of mind as I wrestle with the fact that the entire country seems to be particularly interested in this non-existent project when British Columbia is delivering tens of billions of dollars in real projects, thousands and thousands of jobs, billions of dollars of revenue that will flow to federal and provincial coffers if we can close these deals, which are approaching final investment decision in the next 12 months. And so trying to keep perspective about these things is pretty crucial. I understand the need for the Prime Minister to engage with premiers across the country. I'll reserve my judgment about the content of the agreement until I see it.
Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe is a big supporter of an oil pipeline from Alberta to the northwest coast of BC. Last week, he said his government was involved in the talks. That's something the Carney government denies.
Yeah, we wouldn't be, a direct signatory or anything to any type of an agreement that might come forward. However, we very much are supportive of Premier Smith's moves to become the proponent for this project and start to bring the conversation forward. And two, on behalf of Prime Minister Carney, we commend him for being open to having discussions around, some unconsulted policies that came into place under his predecessor that simply are unworkable and are hindering us achieving his aspiration of not only becoming a global energy superpower, but obtaining or getting to a point where we'd have the strongest economy in the G7. In order for that to happen, we need to be, as provincial premiers and as a federal government, supportive of each and every project in each and every industry.
But in BC, politicians are singing a very different tune, like the BC Energy Minister, Adrian Dix.
Well, our position is very clear. There's no proponent, there's no project, there's no possibility of the kind of contracts, for no market, in other words, of the kind of contracts they need to go ahead with this. No route. And of course, proceeding would have a major impact on the tanker ban. And just to be clear, it's a tanker ban. And so the idea that you could do a tanker ban except for 650,000 barrels a day doesn't make any sense. We believe that that tanker ban is essential to a lot of the economic activity we're doing now on the West Coast, the multi-billion-dollar economy we have now, and the tens of billions of dollars of investment that are taking place on the West Coast. So we've been pretty clear about that, both publicly and privately over time.
The idea of an oil pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast and the undoing of so many Trudeau-era environmental regulations is not going to sit well with some of those longtime Liberal MPs, like the former Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault.
You've heard the Prime Minister, you've heard Minister LeBlanc say a number of times publicly that for any projects to materialize, those projects will have to be made with the accord, the agreement of provinces.
And a former natural resources minister during the Justin Trudeau days is Jonathan Wilkinson. He didn't make the cut for cabinet under Mr. Carney, but he's also a BC MP.
I think the Prime Minister has been clear that there are a number of conditions that a project like that and many others would need to satisfy. That includes support from First Nations. That includes ensuring that the emissions associated with the pipeline fit in the context of Canada's climate plan. So,
what about the tanker ban? I know that was an important thing for a lot of people in BC. I'm sure a lot of your constituents would not want to see that lifted for oil exports off northern BC. What do you think of the prospect of that being lifted or amended?
Well, I think that we're going to have conversations with the province of BC. I think Premier Abey's been pretty clear about his position on that. I think the Coastal First Nations have been very clear on their position on that. And much of the support for the LNG facilities that are going there, relies on the support of Coastal First Nations. So I think there's a bunch of things that have to get worked through if, in fact, the government is looking to at least partially lift the ban.
At the Calgary Chamber of Commerce, the event is called A Conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney. It's scheduled to happen this Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Calgary time, lasts until 1:30 in the afternoon. The venue hasn't been announced. It says details will be provided upon registration. There will be opening remarks by the Prime Minister, and then he'll have a sit-down conversation with the President of the Chamber, Deborah Yedlin. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
He's with us every Tuesday to talk about the big issues of the day. Professor Ian Lee is with the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. And he's in Vancouver today. Good to hear from you.
My pleasure, Rob. I flew out last night. I'm delivering a paper today on Canada's steep decline in economic fundamentals, StatsCan data, of course. And then I'm right after the conference, I got to jump on a plane and fly back home because I have to teach tomorrow morning at 8:30, and I never miss my classes. So I didn't miss any classes to come out yet. Came out
All
after
right,
my
quick
Monday class,
quick.
back home before my Wednesday class.
All right, Very quick turnaround for you. Well, you're in what could become the home, what I would call the home of the resistance in British Columbia, given the big news of the day, the pending MOU between the Carney government in Ottawa and the Smith government in Alberta, something to be announced Thursday. What do you think of it all?
I think it's an excellent idea. First off, I do not consult to any firm whatsoever in energy, direct or indirect, not oil, not gas, nothing. Because I get people emailing me, accusing me of that, and I don't. I just study the data. The data is very clear. Trevor Combe at Calgary, University of Calgary, Stephen Gordon, before he retired at the University of Laval, showed that the natural resources sector, and specifically oil and gas, account for about 3/4 of our prosperity over the last quarter of a century. They have some of the highest productivity numbers of any industry, vastly higher than the manufacturing, by the way. That's one point. It's going to be an enormous contributor to Canada's prosperity, and they pay enormous amounts of taxes to the federal and provincial governments. That's another very strong argument in its favor. And, of course, the most important one is that countries around the world are continuing to use oil. And to the extent that oil and gas is used to get China and countries like China off of coal, which is the dirtiest of all the fossil fuels, the BC government should be celebrating and to the sky. And this has been my criticism of Premier Abbey and, for that matter, former Environment Minister Guy Beau, that they're deeply confused. And I mean by that, it shows they're not evidence-based. Coal is twice as dirty in terms of emissions as any other fuel, a fossil fuel. So anything that gets any country anywhere in the world off of coal is a net contribution to reduction in global warming. And yet they're opposed to shipping out oil and gas through BC to the coast to ship to Asia. It's not just China, South Korea, Japan. The Asian countries are heavy users of coal because they have lots of it. And they're heavy emissions producers, much higher than Canada, by the way. And so you would think if Premier Eby or Guilbeault were evidence-based, using StatsCan data and IEA data, that they would support this. But they don't. I do. And I'm glad that Prime Minister Carney recognizes this because he can count. He does understand numbers. He is an economist. He was at Goldman Sachs and then was a governor of two banks, central banks. So he's going in the right direction. And this is going to benefit Canada and benefit the world through reduced emissions.
Well, I keep hearing, people are saying, well, it's going to take forever. It's going to take, so long, and it's bound to end up in the courts. All of this stuff. What all valid, I suppose. What are the chances that our grandchildren will see another pipeline from Alberta to BC? I mean, what is the likelihood of this ever coming into being?
Yeah, two points. The first one is just absolutely, it's truly demagogic and silly. It takes a long time, and it may not come to pass. That's as silly as saying, it takes a long time to educate somebody to go through 8 years of public school, 4 years of high school, 4 years of university. Forget it. That takes too long to educate a person. My God, the payoff is 25 years later. Yes, that's right. It is. And the payoff is worth it. That's why we believe in education as opposed to illiteracy and ignorance. And it's an ignorant argument to make, it takes a long time and there's a long payoff. Anything that has a very high ROI, return on investment of time or capital or energy, typically has a very long payoff. It's only a Hollywood mentality that wants the whole thing wrapped up in 2 hours, a nice tight little movie with a happy ending, that thinks like that. But that's not how the real world operates. Real world operates on long timelines, whether it's universities or high schools or oil and gas projects or pipelines. Our mining, by the way, we have the longest 20 years to get a mine from scratch up to we're the worst in the OECD, second worst. And yes, let's shorten the timeline. I quite agree. This is an argument to shorten the timeline. But if we have good leadership, and it looks like Carney's going to provide it, if he can remove the barriers, like people like Premier Abbey, who is not evidence-based, if he can get these people to change, then I think it can happen quite quickly. These are not construction barriers. These are barriers put there by environmental groups and politicians like Premier Abbey. They're not intrinsic to the physical exercise.
When we come back, we will talk about major projects and Mark Carney's favorite word. His favorite word is catalyze. You're going to catalyze investment. When we come back, what does he mean by that? And will it work? With Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University in Vancouver today. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
We are back with Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. He's in Vancouver today. I think the Prime Minister's favorite word is catalyze. I hear that from Mark Carney all the time. We're going to catalyze investment. I guess he means, the government will make investments, and that will lower the risk on, say, a major project, and that will make it more attractive for private investors. But the Liberals have been trying this for years. It hasn't really amounted to much. The so-called Canada Infrastructure Bank has become, more or less a government slush fund. What's different this time?
You've asked, I think, the most important question of all. I get emails from people saying, how come you hate Carney and Trudeau? I said, no, you got it all wrong. I am very, very critical of the Trudeau years, and based on the empirical decisions he made that drove down our productivity. You know, the No Pipeline Bill, Bill C-69, that essentially discouraged any form of natural resource investment. I applaud Prime Minister Carney for reversing and going in a different direction from the Trudeau government, which focused on consumption and redistribution, not trying to make the pie bigger, but, you know, redistributing the pie. Carney is focused on investment and growing the pie to make it bigger to raise our standard of living. Full kudos to Prime Minister Carney for doing that. Let's give him credit. Where I have been critical of Prime Minister Carney is on this exact issue, Rob. And to be fair, and I am trying to be fair, I assure you, the Liberal government for my lifetime has really believed that government should be at the center of economic development, that government should be choose the winners and the losers. Think of Bombardier. Think of the battery plants. That's classical, quintessential Liberal policy. And it hasn't worked. It has not worked empirically and factually. And it's not because I'm not anti-public servant. My father was in the government of Canada for 42 years as a public servant. I have lots of friends in the government of Canada. It's just that when bureaucracy intervenes, it creates enormous rules, regulations, red tape, and it slows everything down dramatically, not just in Canada, in countries around the world. And so where I agree with Prime Minister Carney, catalyze investment, he should be getting rid of all the red tape, the bureaucracy, the Mickey Mouse, and then stepping back to allow the private sector to come in. That is what will catalyze investment, not having government inserted into the process with things like the Major Projects Office, or the Infrastructure Bank, which does what? Creates yet more bureaucracy, more red tape, more delays. And so that we have the second worst record in the world, in the OECD, for opening up a new mine. 21 years. That's incredible. There's countries that do it in under 10 years, and you can still do it respectfully and treat the environment properly and adequately, in the proper way. So where my criticism of Carney is not that he's not going in the right direction of focusing on investment, economic growth, and that sort of thing. It's that he believes, from his own comments and his decisions, that government has to be at the center of this catalyzing investment, and I think it's a mistake. And it's a mistake in every country that does it. The reason the U.S. is so wealthy, is so successful as a nation, is that contrary to the fact that we all talk about the president is really not running the country in the sense that he's sitting up there like the Wizard of Oz, making all these decisions, microeconomic decisions. This industry does this and that industry does that. That's not how the government should be running the economy.
Okay. Great to hear from you. We'll have to wrap it up there. Safe travels. Quick turnaround for you from Vancouver to Ottawa. Safe travels back. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye. Yeah, Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It's time for the Tuesday Newsday political panel with Susan Smith, principal at Bluesky Strategy Group. Welcome back. How are you?
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, good to hear from you. Neil Brodie, longtime conservative commentator, ex of the Harper PMO. How are you, Neil?
I'm good, Rob. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. Well, Sue, let's start with you. What is your reaction to the news reports that the Carney government in Ottawa and the Smith government in Alberta will announce this Thursday an MOU on energy policy?
It seems like something's happening. The Prime Minister is giving a speech in Calgary tomorrow, so I think it's fair to assume that the stories will be something along those lines, I think. And the Prime Minister, as an Albertan, has indicated that he wants to get more of Canada's cleaner energy to Tidewater. So I think he's been in discussions with Premier Smith. She's been uncharacteristically either quiet or non-complaining about Ottawa in the last little while, so it lead me to believe that something's in the works. She's also got a leadership review, or they've got a convention coming up, so I think she's seeking to put something in the window.
Okay. She has sounded optimistic, for sure, that this government is different from the last governments. Neil, what do you think about this?
I think it's relatively good news for Daniel Smith. As Susan said, there's her party, the UCP party, is having a policy convention this weekend. So it's great to go into that with some good news. There's no leadership review, but it gives her some cover going in front of her supporters and being able to say she's getting some movement from Ottawa. But I don't know how this will fare for Mr. Carney and his Green Liberal coalition.
Okay, well, let's pick up on that. How does he, Sue? How does the Prime Minister explain this to the environmentalists in his own caucus? Maybe a lot of them leftovers from the Trudeau era. How does he explain this to them?
Well, you're right. He is going to there are some folks, certainly there's a 20-member BC caucus now. It's the biggest Liberal caucus there's ever been from British Columbia in recent memory. And so there will be some folks who are unhappy if an MOU or the final output ends up with a change to the oil tanker ban that's currently on the BC coast. But we're a long way from final output. And what the Prime Minister has said is that Canada needs to build things. He campaigned on it. He campaigned on it from a leadership perspective, and he campaigned on it from an election perspective, saying that we have clean and conventional energy. We need to optimize it, and we need to optimize it in a way that's good for the economy while also managing emissions. And so it strikes me that Mr. Carney's probably been very effective in his conversations with Premier Smith, and there are things in it that make it more saleable from Mr. Carney's point of view. So the process will play out, right? Under Bill C-5, when there are major projects that are real and could come to fruition with actually shovels in the ground, and I would say there isn't anything in that context yet with Premier Smith in Alberta, provinces must be consulted, communities must be consulted, First Nations must be consulted. So all of those steps have to take place. And so the BC caucus, I'm sure, will make themselves heard. But the Prime Minister, I think he'll make a very strong case, and all of the MPs that were elected to be members of his caucus were elected under the economic agenda that he put forward.
Okay. What problems do you see ahead for Mr. Carney within his own caucus, Neil?
Well, Susan's quite right that during the leadership and during the election earlier this year, Mr. Carney was talking about Canada becoming an energy superpower, and in Oprah-like fashion was saying there would be a pipeline for you and a pipeline for you and a pipeline for you. But since the election, there's been a steady walk back of his position there, to the point where we started seeing Mark Carney, who used to be the UN Special Envoy on Climate Change. He started saying things like pipelines, but not necessarily pipelines. He and his ministers went out saying provinces had a veto over this federal jurisdiction. So, the Liberal Party relied the last 4 elections on the Green Liberal coalition to get elected. So I don't really know how this can be supported by that part of his voting coalition. We already see John Wilkinson, a former minister under Mr. Trudeau, a card-carrying member of the Green Liberals, out of cabinet and rumored to be on his way to politics. And I don't know where this leaves his Quebec caucus with Stephen Guilbeault. We might talk about the rumors around Minister Joly coming. But, it'll be interesting to see how he squares this circle.
I can tell you as a long-time member of the Liberal Party, I've never had a green Liberal card. I've never seen them issue a green Liberal card.
Well, if we can talk about red Tories, we can talk about green Liberals.
Yeah, well, that's a new one. That's a new category. There's red Tories, there's blue Libs, but I've never heard of green Libs. They don't give out colored cards.
Okay, you heard it here first. Okay, look, just to keep a rein on this, so we don't go wandering off in all kinds of colors of the rainbow. But how do you overcome opposition? There's sure to be opposition from the BC government and First Nations. How does he do that? Or how does Premier Smith do that? How do they do that together?
Well, that's something Premier Smith has to do, right? There are premiers' tables. There are conversations that can happen. And maybe it's not surmountable. I don't know, but you have to try. And I don't think Canadians elected Mark Carney. He did not elect Pierre Poilievre, but elected Mark Carney to try to find a way to make our economy stronger. He made no bones about being supportive of conventional energy and renewable energy. He has talked actively about the Pathways Project in Alberta, which is carbon capture, utilization, and storage. It's a way to capture emissions and a way to build a new strength on the part of Canadian technology and Canadian ability to clean up the environment. So I think there are many conversations that will take place. There are definitely going to be unhappy people. Look, Confederation in Canada, any political party, just ask Mr. Poilievre, he's had a few folks who've left the table. But everybody, you very seldom have unanimity around your family dinner table. So to have unanimity around the Canadian family dinner table or the interprovincial family dinner table or a First Nations family dinner table is no different. So I don't think unanimity, it's finding a way to get consensus and a path on something when it becomes defined. It is yet undefined. When it becomes defined, so people can really react to something real and concrete. And I think that's what's important.
All right, when we come back, Neil hinted at it. Rumors abound now. Melanie Joly doesn't want to be a Liberal MP anymore. And who wouldn't want to be the ambassador to France anyway? Sounds like a great gig. We'll be right back. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Susan Smith here, Principal Bluesky Strategy Group. Neil Brodie, longtime Conservative commentator, our Tuesday Newsday political panel. My friend Brian Lilly for the Sun Papers reports today, quote, speculation out of Ottawa is that Melanie Joly could leave cabinet in a matter of weeks. If the right appointment comes along, Joly is looking to be appointed Canada's ambassador to France. Who wouldn't want to be the ambassador to France? I bet you it's a pretty sweet gig. Neil, what do you make of that rumor?
Well, first off, if anyone who listens to, who makes these decisions is listening, I'd be happy to be appointed High Commissioner to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. But getting to your point, there's two comments I'd like to make. First, this isn't Justin Trudeau's government anymore. My understanding, talking to people around Ottawa for the past 10 years, there wasn't much rigor during the Trudeau years. From what I'm hearing since the Carney government came in, is that Mr. Carney's running a working government. So we've gone from Animal House to Gordon Gekko. So perhaps now is the time for some ministers who are used to, let's say, lots of talking and not much work. Perhaps it's time they exit with a good name, a good pension, and accept a board position somewhere, which is usually what ministers do. Secondly, what's up with Carney? He's been prime minister for 8 months, and we're talking about his third major change to the cabinet. Now, granted, there is an election in there. I get that. But to quote Joe Biden, come on, man. Most cabinets last, 18 or 24 months. If Mr. Carney's trying to portray Canada as a stable country, changing the executive table every season does not convey stability. Or maybe to quote Sir John A. Macdonald, or paraphrase Sir John A. Macdonald, perhaps Mr. Carney is coming to the realization that he needs better wood to make a better cabinet.
Okay. What do you make of the rumor? And how many quotes can you come up with?
Yeah.
And where would you like to be posted to?
You know what? If Neil wants Barbados, I'll take Sydney, Australia. That would suit me.
Sydney, Australia.
General.
Okay.
I don't even need to be the High Commissioner. I'd be happy to be the Consul General in Sydney. Though Barbados would be nice. And there are no appointments coming my way, just to reassure people not to worry. So Brian Lilly, a well-known conservative columnist, so I think I have to put a teeny tiny grain of salt into what I read based on what he posts. But I think there will be some changes that happen at the holidays. I don't know if Minister Joly is going to be part of the mix. Part of the Prime Minister's job is to ensure that they have the right people doing the right jobs in the right place. And this was a new government with some new ministers and some new slots. So sometimes there's adjustments that take place. Sometimes people retire after 10 years or longer in the political grind. And I think most of our listeners would know that being a cabinet minister, it's a tough job. So I expect some change. I don't know whether Minister Joly will be part of that change. Long chat about Bill Blair being part of the change, perhaps going to London. Jonathan Wilkinson being part of that change, though rumors have that he's a little bit picky about what position that he's looking for. And Chrystia Freeland has accepted the new position at Rhodes at Oxford University, Rhodes House. So obviously there's going to be some change, no question. And then what that does is it gives the Prime Minister an opportunity to bring some new faces to the table, whether from within caucus or with by-elections, some folks that he can draw maybe additionally from the business sector across the country, and always keeping a caucus fresh and a cabinet with the right people in the right place at the right time is the Prime Minister's job. So we'll see what happens.
Could you, Sue, see let's say all of this comes to pass, and in the Liberal caucus, there is no Bill Blair, Jonathan Wilkinson, Melanie Joly, maybe Stephen Guilbeault, Chrystia Freeland. You have a Toronto ride, 2 Toronto ridings, 2 Montreal ridings, a BC riding. Could you see 5 by-elections being called at the same time, something like that?
I think that would make sense from a resource perspective, but it depends on if they have the right candidates lined up. The Prime Minister has 6 months to call a by-election from a seat being vacated. With Mr. Poilievre, the Prime Minister said he wasn't going to play games when Poilievre lost his seat in Ottawa. And the minute the MP stepped aside in Alberta, he was able to call the by-election for Poilievre to try and get a seat back in the House, which he did. So we'll see what happens. I think they'll game that out the way that best works for the government.
Oh, yeah, I have no doubt. When we come back, what is the opposition up to digging into Mr. Carney's financial holdings? They've hauled the clerk of the Privy Council before the Ethics Committee. The COO of Brookfield was there this week as well. His name's Justin Bieber, by the way. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Tuesday Newsday political panel with Neil Brodie and Susan Smith. The opposition parties have been doing their best to dig into Prime Minister Carney's financial holdings, look for potential conflicts. They had the clerk of the Privy Council before the Ethics Committee, and now the COO of Brookfield Corporation. His name is Justin Bieber. Love that. Neil, you told us to watch this one, that this would be a political story to watch. I remember that not that long ago. What's the opposition's endgame here? What are they getting at?
Listen, there's a document that every prime minister puts out called Open and Accountable Government. And in the introduction to that 30-page document, it says, you must uphold the highest standards of honesty and impartiality, and both the performance of your official duties and arrangement of your private affairs should bear the closest public scrutiny. This is an obligation that is not fully discharged by simply acting within the law. So the multiple times Mr. Carney has been asked about his financial holdings, he says, I'm complying with the rules of the Ethics Commissioner. And let's understand it, that's not enough. The bar is higher than just complying with the rules. We're also told, media reports when he filed his ethics disclosure, that Mr. Carney has almost $10 million in Brookfield stock options that can be exercised in 2033 or 2034 or something like that. So let's look at the Brookfield news releases for the past year. In January, the Brookfield Asset Management announced it bought $1 billion worth of single-family homes in the USA to add to its rental portfolio. In February, it invested $20 billion in AI infrastructure. In June, it invested $14 billion in AI infrastructure. In October, it's talked about planning to invest $80 billion in small modular reactors in the United States. And just last week, it announced another $100 billion for AI infrastructure. these sound a lot like the major planks of the Carney government. Build Canada Homes is building homes. AI infrastructure is all over the news. And he announced last month some money for Doug Ford's small modular reactors in Ontario. So I think it's fair.
So what are you accusing him of, Neil?
I think it's fair for the opposition, the media, and the general public to have questions about Mr. Carney's financial affairs. He has stock options.
We got it, Neil. We only have a minute left. Let's get to Sue. For a response in a minute. We only have a minute.
So this, newsflash to Canadians, they chose a prime minister with a successful private sector career. That's actually why they chose him. They chose a prime minister who had experience dealing with the private sector, who hadn't had one single T4 from government, from taxpayers for the last 20 years. So obviously, Mr. Carney has a business track record. I think most Canadians would like to have a successful business person leading the country than a failure as a business person leading the country, or someone with zero business experience. So he's complied with the disclosures. Holdings are in blind trusts. The Ethics Commissioner has done the review. These were things that were available to Prime Minister Harper, all other prime ministers before. The Prime Minister is running the country. He's not sitting at Brookfield's table. He's doing a good job of running the country. And personally, me, and I suspect a lot of listeners, would prefer someone who understands a balance sheet and has actually made decisions affecting them, rather than someone who's just read about them.
But Mr. Carney can enrich himself in 2033 by the actions he takes today as Prime Minister.
That's nonsense, Neil. Come on, that is a weak stretch, and I don't think anybody's buying that.
Okay. And we were getting along so well. We'll have to wrap it up there, though. Thank you, Susan Smith from Bluesky, Neil Brodie, longtime Conservative commentator.
It's time to talk back
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talk Back. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today, we're going to talk again about regulating social media. And here's the basic question. Given what is known about the effects of social media on children, should social media be regulated the same way that there are regulations about other harmful things like tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, or gambling? For example, should the government limit access to social media the same way it regulates accessing other harmful products with an age limit? An age limit. What would you say? What's your opinion on that? Being at least 16 years old to have a social media account, for example. Why are we asking this? Well, it's because, one reason is a recent news story about the biggest social network in the world, Facebook. Parent company of Facebook, of course, is Meta. Facebook is being sued by a bunch of school districts in the United States. As an aside, I would say it's worth noting there are more than a dozen school boards in Canada who are also suing Facebook and all the other social media companies as well, TikTok and Snapchat. The claim is these companies knew their products caused harm to children and they covered it up. And as such, they contributed to a crisis in mental health for young people, and their products caused a lot of disruption in the classroom. Now, in the United States, it has been learned because of these lawsuits that Facebook knew its products were harmful to children and covered it up. How did it know? It was doing its own research. Facebook was doing its own research. This goes back about 5 years ago. Facebook had a research project called Project Mercury. And as part of that project, scientists, you can picture them in their white lab coats, scientists from Facebook, worked with the survey firm Nielsen, and what they wanted to know is how people would feel when they deactivated their Facebook accounts. And what they found was that people who stopped using Facebook for 1 week felt better. They had lower feelings of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and what is called social comparison. In other words, measuring yourself against other people, those beautiful Instagram people, which is also owned by Facebook Meta. What did Facebook do in light of these findings? It ended the research project and declared that the findings were suspect because of the existing media narrative around the company. That's its official stance. In the various news reports that you can read this week about ending this research project called Project Mercury, some staff members at Facebook didn't feel comfortable with the findings. At least one employee likened it to big tobacco. Doing research and finding out that smoking cigarettes causes cancer and then covering it up. And doesn't it sort of sound like the same thing? Another employee said Instagram, which, as I said, like Facebook, is also owned by Meta. The employee said Instagram is like a drug and we're the drug pushers. And the documents say when the head of Instagram heard about the results of Project Mercury, he, quote, freaked out and didn't want to hear it. The plaintiffs in the American lawsuit, all of these school districts, claim Meta knew a great many things about how harmful its platform could be to children and hid it all from the public. Claim that Meta made sure any safety features that it designed for its social media platforms were ineffective and barely used. Meta required that users be caught no fewer than 17 times attempting to traffic people into the sex trade before accounts would be removed from the platform. Meta, and again, these are all claims that have to be tested in court. Well, one of the claims is that Meta stalled efforts to prevent child predators from being able to contact young children online because it would hurt the company's revenue growth. And there are claims that Meta knew that optimizing content for teens would mean that teens would be able to access more harmful content, but Meta did that anyway. Those are claims that plaintiffs are making in lawsuits in court against Facebook. In a statement, after all of this hit the news, Meta said, quote, the study was stopped because its methodology was flawed and that it has worked diligently to improve the safety of its products. But that's just one story that's in the news. Here's another one. Headline: what happens to kids' brains after thousands of hours staring at screens? This is the latest in a series of news stories published this year about the potential harms from children and excessive screen time. This was a study of 10,000 children, 9 and 10 years old, tracked for 2 years using MRI scans. The researchers found that there was something called cortical thinning in regions of the brain linked to attention, memory, and impulse control, and said that smaller cortical volume in the brain correlates with ADHD-like symptoms, and that the differences in the reward-centered parts of the brain show a preference for instant gratification. Many studies to that effect released this year. In a recent interview, Prime Minister Mark Carney was asked if he would support putting age restrictions on social media accounts in Canada. He said, quote, he didn't have a settled view on it, but that there is merit to, quote, making a judgment on that. And he also said it's an open secret in Silicon Valley that leaders in the tech sector don't allow their own children to use social media. Other countries are already moving to restrict access to social media for young people. In Australia, soon, in just a few weeks, anyone under the age of 16 will not be allowed to have a social media account, including a YouTube account. They're doing the same thing in Malaysia. There's a private member's bill in Nova Scotia that would limit access to social media to those 16 years of age and older. Should there be an age limit on the use of social media? The way there's an age limit on other harmful products and behaviors. Gambling, smoking, drinking alcohol, smoking pot. We restrict those given the harms that social media can have on young people. Should Should there be the same, an age limit? 1-833-668-2577. And take part in Talkback today. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're asking, should there be an age limit on having a social media account in Canada? We're talking about social media regulation in this country. The same way there are age limits on other harmful products, other harmful activities, tobacco consumption, alcohol use, cannabis use, gambling, for example. 1-833-668-2577. This summer, there was a report from Western University, London, Ontario, clearly showed a link between increased screen time, higher levels of depression and anxiety. A study released this summer by a academic journal on psychology followed 300,000 children and it found that children who spent more time using devices had a higher risk of developing problems like aggression, anxiety, lower self-esteem. Gaming consoles, particularly harmful for boys, it said. I mentioned in Australia, anyone under the age of 16 not going to be allowed to have a social media account. That comes into effect December 10th. Malaysia looking at doing the same thing. Number of other European countries. In Nova Scotia, a private member's bill from Ian Rankin, he's a Liberal MLA in Nova Scotia, will limit access to social media to those 16 years of age and older. Now, he's one of a handful of Liberal MLAs in a legislature where the PCs have a huge majority government, so I don't know how far that's going to get. In Quebec, there was a year-long study about this, a special commission that issued a special report. And it said children under the age of 14 shouldn't be allowed to have a social media account. That was the conclusion. If you're 14 and under, you shouldn't be allowed to have a social media account because there are clear and harmful effects on the well-being of children. This is why we're asking the question. Come up with a list of all the bad things that come with social media. Mental and emotional problems, cognitive issues, behavioral problems. You could conclude social media is bad for your health, and it's bad for the health of children. Smoking cigarettes is bad for your health. Drinking alcohol, smoking cannabis, all bad for you. Should there be age restrictions in place to protect children? Other places are doing it. Should we do it here? What would you say? 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Cliff is in Dartmouth. Hello, Cliff.
Hey, Rob.
Cliff, what would you say?
In response to the question, I don't dispute that social media and even video games can be very detrimental to development. My question is, it's concerning how they're going to enforce it. Is this a platform to enable digital ID and, linking all of your legal identity to everything you do online, right? That's my only concern. Right.
Okay. Well, in Australia, what they plan to do is if you want a social media account, you have to prove that you're 16 and you would have to upload to the age verification process a copy of a government issued ID, a driver's license or a passport or something along those lines, age of majority card or whatever the case might be.
They've already implemented that in the UK, haven't they?
I don't think so. Australia seems to be leading the way on this.
All right. Yeah, that seems dangerous. I'm wondering what happened to when parents used to take care of that. Now, I know children have a way of getting around parental, but with the parental oversight, even 80% of the time, making sure, like we were all kids once and we used to, the stuff we used to get into, but it was managed, right? That's my only concern with the whole situation. Anyway, I got to go, but thanks.
Okay, you go, Cliff. Thank you for calling. Let's go to John is in Calgary, 1-833-668-2577. Hi, John.
How's it going today?
Very good, John. What's your opinion?
My opinion is parents need to take back control, and all this liberal idea of the government controlling this, the government regulating that. We don't need more government intervention. As a parent, you need to parent your child, right? The parents buy the phone, the parents buy the computer. The parents buy the tablets. The parents do everything, right? So why aren't the parents regulating the amount of time that the child is spending on social media, right? There's two types of parents. The parents that tell your kid to go outside, like what? The kids in the 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, right? Go outside, ride a bike, have fun, get some fresh air. And the parents that put their kid in front of a tablet, in front of a TV, in front of a computer and say, stay out of my way, right? So there's a parent that's not telling their child to do something productive, right? Because there's KiwiCo, there's different STEM websites that allow your kid to do something productive, right? Allow them to build and learn, do different activities, science projects, right? But they don't do that. They put them in front of a tablet or give them a phone. So the parents need to take the responsibility. The government needs to do what the government does and control the economy, control business, and assist business and whatever not. That's a different story for a different day, right? But the parents need to keep the
So you don't see any different from, say, the harms that would come from, all of the bad stuff, smoking tobacco or drinking alcohol or gambling or smoking pot, and you don't see any comparison at all to that and consuming social media?
Yes and no, but that's with everything, right? You make your child drink too much juice, there's an issue with that. You make your child drink too much water, there's an issue with that, right? There's good and bad with everything. There's good social media, there's bad social media, right? You live in Canada and you have family, friends that live in America, live in Australia, or whatever the case is, right? The child can communicate effectively with grandma, grandpa, or auntie and uncle and cousins, right? So there's good and bad that you have to take from it. But at the same time, as a parent, you still have to parent and regulate it, right? That's not
you don't think that you don't think it's the government's role to impose something like an age restriction then? You must be 16 to have a social media account. Okay, you think it's the parent's responsibility. Fair enough. I thought that might be a popular answer today. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577 and have your say on the topic today. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should there be an age limit on having a social media account in Canada? The same way there are age limits on other harmful products, activities, tobacco consumption, alcohol consumption, cannabis consumption, even gambling. 1-833-668-2577. Or should, 14-year-olds be able to buy booze and tobacco and cannabis and go to the casino as long as their parents are okay with it? It's the parents' responsibility. This is what I'm hearing from some of the callers. Well, no, it's the parents' responsibility. Okay. Look, Johnny, go to the store and get me a pack of smokes. And, here's $20. Get one for yourself, too, while you're there. It's the parents' responsibility. 1-833-668-2577. Chris in Kitchener. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Very good, Chris. What do you think?
Well, actually, no, it's out of the parents' hands now. You can't, how do you deal with your children now? Yes, I believe that, yes, the government should have restrictions. I mean, impressionable minds. It's a dangerous slope, isn't it?
Well, this is what I'm asking. Some countries like Australia, as I say, 16 and older, starting December 10th, 3.5 weeks from now, 16 and older. The recommendation where I am in this province is 14. You shouldn't have a social media account until you're at least 14.
I agree. I mean, you have to establish your account. And if you're 14 years old and you're paying for your phone and everything else, yeah, I mean, if the parents are paying for it, when I gave my kids phones, we didn't have the internet or anything. We just wanted to contact them, right? Just make sure they were safe. Send them outside.
Sure.
Now it's I think it's impressionable minds. I don't think the young kids are ready for it, and they have to prove at a certain age that they should be qualified. I mean, I know people that are older.
Well, you and I are kind of in the minority so far through the early calls that we have. A lot of people say, well, this shouldn't be a role for the government. It should be up to the parents. This is best left to the parents. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's 50-50. I think the government should implement like Australia. Okay, you have to do this and enforce it on these companies. And the parents also have to monitor. I mean, nobody knows their kids better than their parents, I would think. I'd like to think, anyway.
All right.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. More
All
of your
right.
calls after the news at 1-833-668-2576.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So I am asking, should there be an age limit on having a social media account in Canada? Other countries are doing it. Should we do the same thing here? There are age limits on all kinds of harmful products and activities. All kinds of things we don't let people do until they hit a certain age. Like tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, gambling. You could add probably a few more. 1-833-668-2577. Let me maybe come at this a different way. Give me a compelling reason. To the moms and dads out there, give me a compelling reason why a 12-year-old needs a social media account. Or a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old for that matter. Why do they need a social media account? What am I missing here? Maybe I'm missing something. But is there really any doubt that social media is bad for your health? And that it is having a very detrimental impact on the lives of our children? That's why these school districts have hired these big-time lawyers in the United States to fight these big social media companies in court. They're seeing it every day, day in, day out. You created these platforms to hook teens. You knew they were addictive, and you covered it up. In fact, you made tools that made these platforms even more addictive, and they're saying we're left to deal with all the consequences of all this. Children who can't stay off screens or throw temper tantrums when their phones are taken away. And we're the ones who have to deal with all the disruption in the classroom. You guys get to be the billionaires. We get to deal with all the problems on the front lines of the education system, just as one example. And now they have their lawyers who have unearthed these research documents from Meta, from Facebook, from this Project Mercury. And they were studying, hey, what happens when people stop using Facebook? And lo and behold, people felt better. Mental health improved. The company disputes that, says cherry-pick the data, and there are media narratives at play, and you have employees sending emails back and forth saying, I feel like a drug dealer. Instagram is like a drug, and we're the drug dealers. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Lots of lines available today. John in Calgary. Hi, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, John. Yeah, very good, John. Thank you.
Hey.
What's your opinion, John?
Yeah, I think social media should be banned from anybody under 16. Like, there's statistics out there. There's everything. There's information out there. Like, growing up, I'm Gen Xer. I'm on the cusp of there was no technology, then it just boomed everywhere. And I've got two little
you're
girls.
like me.
I try to watch what they are online, but it's the internet. There's there's millions of sites out there. A parent can't see every site the kid goes on. Like, we need restrictions. It's horrible. Like, growing up as a kid, it was only your peers, your class group that you had to deal with. Online, it's the whole world you're dealing with. Like, it is ridiculous out there. It's like a tobacco company saying, no, cigarettes are good for you. Smoke them. That's the kind of comparison I see the internet today.
Right. Okay. What about, because this is a very popular opinion today, I'm not surprised to hear it. Well, it's not really the government's responsibility, it's a parent's responsibility. What do you think about that?
Oh, you had one caller who said it's 50-50. I agree. It is 50-50. Parents need to know what the kids are doing, but the government itself needs to know what is influencing their citizens. Like, it is coast to coast, north, south, east, west. Like, everybody has internet nowadays. Everybody has the ability to go online and insult someone or get insulted. And it is just free reign. It's like the Wild West on the internet right now. You can't get away from it. It's everywhere. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody wants a cell phone. Who doesn't have a cell phone?
Sure.
It is addicting. Like, you see kids freaking out because they can't play video games. And like, no, go outside.
Yeah.
Like I was told.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
outside.
I freak out when I lose my phone too. Too. I'm not, I'm not Lily White here as well. I'm addicted to his social media as much as the next person, but I'm also 55 years old, right? I wonder about the 15-year-old. Right.
Exactly. Our brains are matured as much as they can and have since we've grown up. The kids, though, they're so influential. Like, you can't say a negative thing to some kid nowadays because they take it so personal, and like they don't have the feathers that duck do that water washes off their back. It affects them personally and mentally and physically every day after day. Like, it is something the government.
So if the government said,
watch.
we're going to follow the Australia model. If people want a social media account, they have to upload a piece of ID and verify their age. What would you say if they did something like that? You'd be okay with it?
I agree with that. I'm okay with that. The government knows who you are. There's no getting away from it. You got a driver's license, the government knows where you are. You have a SIM card, they know who you are, what you're doing all the time. And all these people, I don't want the government to know. They know you already. Like, there's no getting around it. Like, there's no privacy anymore.
Thank you.
Everybody knows.
Gotcha. You'd be okay with it, though? Okay, thank you. Let's go to Joe in Kitchener. Let's go to Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Rob. Listen, if parents really want to take control over what the kids have access to or what they don't have access to, it really starts at the provider. If you sign them up with a cell phone, which I don't agree with in the first place, a kid shouldn't have a cell phone, in my opinion, until they're like 16. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
What the hell do they need a cell phone for?
All right.
What are you going to do at 12 years old that you need a cell phone for that I didn't have when I was 12 years old? We played kick the can. We played witch, tick, all this stuff. We built tree forts. We helped our neighbors build sheds. We learned real life skills when we were growing up, and we helped out the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Now parents just hand the kids a tablet and say, "Here you go. Here's the rest of your day." They take an absentee approach to their kids' upbringing. They hook them onto this technology and this social media crap, and then what kind of kids are you producing? Like, seriously, if you want to control the kids, don't give them data at the provider level. Just cut the data right off, so you can only text, you can only call in an emergency, and that's that.
Right. All right, but what about the government having an age limit? What about the government having an age limit? You can't have a social media account unless you're 16. You totally agree. Okay. Okay. Surprised to hear that from you. You're not a big government guy. I know that, Joe. All right, thank you. Very good. 1-833-668-2577. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are just getting word that Colleen Jones, the championship curler, has passed away, just 65 years old. Long career with the CBC, of course, won the World's Women's Championship in 2001 and 2004. Six-time Canadian Women's Champion, 21 appearances at the Scotties, Scotties Tournament of Hearts. Played more games in the Scotties than any curler in Canadian history. Skipped the World Senior Women's Championship to 2017. Inducted into the Canada Sports Hall of Fame in 2016. A 40-year career as well with the CBC. And she was the first female sports anchor in the city of Halifax. So sad news today for followers of curling, and the career, the life of Colleen Jones has passed away at the age of 65. And as well, we are just getting word by way of the Canadian press, Penny Oleksiak, the Canadian swimming champion, has been suspended for 2 years for an anti-doping violation. 25 years old from Toronto now, Canada's most decorated female Olympian, 7 Olympic medals, 1 gold, 2 silver, 4 bronze, 9 world championship medals as well over the course of her career. But the International Testing Agency says she's been given a 2-year ban from competition for an anti-doping violation. So a couple of breaking news stories right now from the world of sports. Meantime, here on Talkback, we're talking about social media regulation in Canada, whether there should be an age limit on having a social media account in Canada. The popular age limit in other places seems to be 16. If you want a social media account, you should be at least 16. What do you think about that? 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Debbie, is in Calgary. Hello, Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Hi,
Hello?
Debbie. I'm very good. Thank you, Debbie. What's your opinion here, Debbie?
Well, I'm kind of torn. So I have a granddaughter
You're torn.
who's 12.
Okay. All right.
And she's had to get special contacts. I think I've mentioned this to you because her eyeball has actually started changing shape because she spends so much time on social media, on small screens. So
oh my gosh.
Your eyeball actually becomes more oval. So she has to wear a contact at night to bed, a hard contact to flatten out her eyeball because she can't see distance.
Oh my gosh.
And she's
gosh.
12. So
12 years old.
Obviously with that, I would like to see some regulations. However, on the other hand, she's also teaching herself to play drums. She's learning how to edit. She's very much obsessed with anime. So she's doing some editing of things and putting things together. So it's stimulating her creativity as well. So it's hard for me to say I don't want her to have access to that information until
because
she's
the
12.
social media is kind of an outlet for her. It's become an outlet for her, right?
It has, and a creative outlet.
Yeah,
like
okay.
she's learning.
A
things.
creative
And
outlet.
I'm not
Yeah, sure.
saying-
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's not spending way too much time watching anime because for sure she is. And I have watched some of that with her, and she'll say to me, Granny, you don't want to watch this one because there's a little pedophilia, there's a little sex, and stuff like this. And going, well, you shouldn't be watching that. And she's like, I don't really, but I know it's in there. So she's not watching it, but she knows that it's available to her if she wants to check it out. Now, it's anime. It's not real people, but still. So
Right,
I'm really
okay.
torn on,
You're
on
torn,
whether
okay.
the government should get involved. I mean, obviously, parents should be monitoring, and she does. She has parental controls, but then you don't always know what's in these anime, until you actually sit down and watch them with your child. So you can't just say, oh, yeah, you can watch anime, no problem. Because it's not just, heroes and demons, and it's other aspects of our society as well. Not nice ones.
Right.
So
you're undecided. You're undecided.
I am. Yeah, I really would hate to take this
all right.
outlet away from her. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I appreciate your point of view. Thank you so much for sharing that. 1-833-668-2577 as we talk about social media regulation in Canada and whether there should be an age limit on having a social media account. What would you say to that? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Where do you come down on having an age limit for having a social media account in Canada? The same way there are age limits for all kinds of harmful adult activities, tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, gambling, given the detrimental effects of social media on children. Lori, what would you say in Calgary today? Hi, Lori.
Oh, hi. I gotta
Hi,
say,
Lori.
I am not a parent, but I sat with some parents who had their child in the hospital due to cyberbullying. They were telling me about Florida having a restriction on social media, and since that, I have realized we need to do something and ban it like Australia did. And if the parents want them to have access for whatever reason, they can sign on for them.
Okay. So why was this an eye-opener for you, this event, meeting this family?
Because I guess I'm not a parent, and I didn't realize how bad it had gotten in schools. And I mean, she had tried to commit suicide, and she was taken in, and that was just shocking, because I guess maybe I have been away from it. I've been totally not even thinking that was actually happening in a place like Canada and Alberta and Calgary, a large city.
It happens.
And another thing is, I find without social media, I think there might be a better opportunity for children to learn how to socialize instead of online dating. Learn how to talk to people. And like
in
Einstein
person,
said,
in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're so busy looking on their phones. I'm one who I'll be in the elevator. I'll talk about the weather with you, but kids don't know how to do that.
Right. Okay. So you would support an age limit. You must be 16. Seems to be the popular one. 16. Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Here's your driver. Sure. Here's your learner's permit, and you can have a social media account now. Okay, thank you, Lori.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very interesting. An encounter at a hospital with a family whose child was being cyberbullied. Isn't that something? Eric is in Kitchener. Hi, Eric. What's your opinion?
Hi,
Eric?
how are you, Rob?
Very good, Eric. Thank you. What's your opinion?
Well, I like to say that I think it's pretty. How are they going to regulate this? You know what I mean? Is it not going to still be up to anyways to monitor, right, on social media? Like, I guess you say it's 16, okay, so you click on a social media account, or say it's Facebook, you know what, and it asks you, are you 16 years of age? If I'm 14, 12, I just say, yeah, I'm 16, and move on. What?
Yeah, it's not going to be that. For example, in Australia, which again is imposing this as of December 10th, so in just a few weeks from now, you have to upload a piece of government ID. Show us your driver's license. Show us your passport, or you can link it through your bank information account to your social media account because your bank.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not into
Yeah.
I don't get those things, but I don't like having to share more information, you know, online, or I assume it's going to be an online thing. You know, I don't like that idea, and I honestly believe, like, I have two daughters. I have a 13-year-old, and I have a 7-year-old, two daughters, and my 7-year-old loves YouTube. Is that considered social media? I don't know. Maybe
it would be. It is under the Australian model. It is social media.
Okay,
yeah.
So like, that is what she likes to do when she has her time. Like, she loves watching, you know, YouTube videos, like all these young kids these days, and taking that away from her, like, I think that's gonna be tough. You know, it's gonna be like a withdrawal. There's gonna be a lot of. It's like if you ban alcohol. There's gonna be a lot of angry kids, a lot of I don't know, kids that are gonna be going through withdrawals. So I think there should be something maybe a little easier, because on YouTube there's a kids YouTube which she has.
Yeah.
So there's
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. Yeah. Get them early. Thank you. That's the first hour.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
So again, we've been asking, and welcome to hour number 2 of Talk Back. Thanks for being with us today. We have been asking where you come down on the idea of an age restriction, an age limit to have a social media account in Canada. The news hook today is news about Facebook, or Meta, which is being sued by school districts in the United States. It's also being sued, by the way, by school boards in Canada, 14 of them in all. Some of the largest school boards in the country are part of the lawsuit in Canada. I'm sure they're interested in this story, and they're claiming they want damages. They want all the social media companies to compensate public education systems because these social media companies knew their products caused harm to young people and covered it up, and have contributed to a crisis in mental health for children. And the crisis in mental health for children causes a lot of disruption in school. And in the United States, through the court system, it has now been learned because of these lawsuits, Facebook knew its products were harmful to children and covered it up through a project called Project Mercury. Project Mercury studied what would happen to people when they deactivated their Facebook accounts, and people's mental health improved. Merely 1 week after deactivating Facebook accounts. Lower feelings of depression, anxiety, loneliness, what's called social comparison, and feeling envious of somebody who's living the great Instagram life, those kinds of feelings. And Facebook ended the research project and declared the findings suspect. Like, let's just, never speak of it again. So that's a big news story this week. And it has reignited debate over regulation of social media and whether there should be an age limit on having a social media account in Canada, such as they're going to do in Australia come December 10th, just a few weeks from now. You will have to be 16 years old to have a social media account in that country. And we're just asking, what do you think if we did the same thing here? We have all kinds of age limits to participate in all kinds of activities or consume products like tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, partake in gambling to protect children. Should the same be done for social media? What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Lots of lines available there for you. Mark is in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Hello, Mark.
Oh, hello, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.
Great topic. I'm a bit conflicted on this one, as a lot of people. So first, I'll just come out and say I'm opposed to it, but I would say it's a qualified opposition. The reason that I'm opposed to it is I just, A, believe it would be almost impossible to police effectively, and B, I think there's tremendous civil liberties issues. It just, in my opinion, just more information being sent to the government. And I guess it's something that I think will just drive it more underground. I just don't think it will solve the problem. I believe there are problems. I recognize the problems. I think they're terrible. I just don't think this is the best way to go about it. I just think it's a little bit akin to, censorship issues. I'm 45. Okay. I vaguely remember PMRC, if you know what that is, like with explicit lyrics, and it just, I clearly ideologically opposed to it, and I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think it will have the intended consequences that the people are trying and the governments are trying to have.
Okay, well, what do you do about these issues, though? These issues are prevalent.
Yes,
for users of social media, especially children. Anxiety, depression, low self-esteem,
absolutely.
Loneliness, social isolation, all of these things, being exposed to cyberbullying, child, all of this
terrible
stuff. What do you do about that? What do you do about that?
Education, it's a big thing. More funding for mental health. Just more awareness about it. When you are putting these restrictions, it's kind of like, to me, like Just Say No campaign, right? To drugs. I'm sure it worked for some people and some kids, right. But I know I'm sounding cynical, but there's a reason. I think that this prohibition And yes, I know that you can't drink when you're, 19 in most provinces. I'm aware of that, and gambling, but, but that's easier to regulate, showing a physical piece of ID, and not, and even then you're going to get people obviously to drink underage, to do drugs. I mean, with the internet, I just don't think this is going to be successful in these countries. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I just think that it's better to leave it more up to the parents and to educate society as a whole. And like I said, more funding and talk about these things more perhaps in school. I just don't think that this is the proper approach.
Fair enough. Thank you. Well reasoned. Abraham is up next in Calgary. Let's go to Abraham. Hello, Abraham.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Very good. What's your opinion, Abraham?
Good. And I just think, man, I think parents are failing to help their kids. That's why these governments are getting involved right now, and they want to put an age restriction to it, I think, which is a very good thing. Social media is not just it's doing a lot of damage to kids. I personally myself, I have two kids. My daughter is 2, and my son, he's about 8 months, and they're not allowed to touch phones at all. Forget about age restriction. I think they shouldn't even have access to smartphones. What do they need?
Okay.
Right. Like, I have a smartphone. I use it for email purposes, for knowledge. I run an automotive business for if I'm hiring. The funny thing is, actually, 3 years ago, I hired a kid. Her mom came, we hired him, and his clothing stuff wasn't good. So we tried to discipline him. The kid didn't show up to work after. And we got in touch with the friend. We're like, hey, is the kid, everything is okay? He's like, oh, he just couldn't handle the pressure. I'm like, what pressure? We're selling cars in here. What pressure are we talking about? And this is the whole problem with these kids these days. They're so attached to their smartphone. When you try to discipline them, they're gone. They think they're getting bullied, or they just can't handle it. Like, we are raising weak kids.
Okay.
So absolutely.
So what if the government said, okay, in Canada from now on, I'm not saying the government's going to do this. The Prime Minister was asked, he was very non-committal about it, that he sounded as, well, I'll have to be convinced whether we should do that. He said he could see the merits to it. But let's say someday down the road, a government said, we're going to have an age limit to have a social media account, 16. What would you say to that? Would you support that?
Absolutely. 100%. There's an age limit for everything. 100%. There's a reason there's an age limit for kids, because they can't be on their own. There has to be restrictions on kids. And the way we're giving them access, especially with smartphone, is we think that they know what they're doing. They don't. There's no censorship.
Gotcha.
They have access to everything.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Abraham. Very good. Be right back. Talk Back, hour number 2 underway. Share your opinion, please. Very interesting topic, and it's far from unanimous today. Love to hear your opinion. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Would you or wouldn't you support an age limit on having a social media account in Canada? 16 seems to be a popular number. If you're not 16 years old, you can't have a social media account in Canada. What would you say about that? There are some takers on that who say, absolutely, we need an age limit on social media in Canada, maybe other regulations on social media in Canada as well. And others say, well, no. You don't need the government interfering here. This is a parent's responsibility. It's a parent's issue. Leave it to the parents. 1-833-668-2577. Laura Lee in Diamond Valley. Sounds lovely. Hi, Laura Lee.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Thank you. What's your opinion?
Good. I think there absolutely has to be regulation.
Has to be.
Your comment that there has to be. So parents, unfortunately, are not looking after the problem. So I think the government does have to step in to a degree. So I have 5 children. They range in age from 20 to 40. So I had 2 children in the 80s, 2 children in the 90s, and then I had a daughter in 2005. And the social difference between 40 and 20 and how they were raised is remarkable. So the older kids they're not kids, but you know what I mean. They obviously are on some kind of social media, but not to the intensity or to the degree of the younger one. And the two middle ones are more into social media than the two older ones. But again, certainly not to the degree of the younger one. I think that.
And what do you see in the differences?
Well, what I see is the younger one struggles with anxiety, for example. The other four never really did. More of her social activities are online, whereas the other four tend to be more like personally, physically social. And I just see that it affects her mental health. And she's actually pretty good. She's one of the good ones. She's actually going to university, and she's taking courses. And one of the courses is basically this topic is, what do you think of social media and stuff? And she understands the detriments of it. So I've got somebody who is being affected by it, but understands that she's being affected by it. And I feel badly for the generation coming up underneath her, because I don't think they've got nothing. I guess parents have nothing to compare it to, I guess. And, to remark on the fellow that said, you're going to have a lot of angry kids. Well, so what? Parents are supposed to be parents. And when did kids start taking charge?
Okay. What about because of the popular opinion today, it's just leave it up to the parents. The government doesn't need to be involved here. What do you think about that?
I wish we could. But like that, some people are saying, my child's on YouTube and stuff all the time. YouTube, you don't even know what your kids are watching. I've got grandsons too, and they're watching Netflix, and it's actually a kid's Netflix. So I would sit there and I watch it with them. And the topic for me is super old for their age. They're 6, 7. And the activities that these characters are involved in, I don't know. I just think, you know what? I don't think we should be watching this, man. Like, let's watch Disney or something. Yeah.
Right. Okay. You think some of it is not age appropriate. Okay.
No, and I think a lot of parents.
So if the government said 16, from now on, 16 years old, and you have to prove it, you have to verify it. Show us a piece of ID. You'll have to upload it. You'd be okay with that?
Yeah, I think lots of kids are like ordering online anyway, and they have to give all that information anyway. So, what's the problem?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Laura Lee, for your opinion today. Be right back with more of your opinions today on Talkback here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should there be an age limit on having a social media account in Canada? The way there are age limits on other harmful products, activities, consuming tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, gambling. Same kind of age limit on social media. In the name of protecting children. 1-833-668-2577. In the name of protecting children. That's why it would be done. I'm not saying the government is going to do it. Prime Minister Carney was asked about it in a recent interview with Toronto Life that was posted online. He was asked, Australia is going to have an age limit of 16 to access social media. Do you think there's merit to that? Would your government consider doing the same sort of thing? And he said he didn't have a settled view on it. But he said there's merit to, quote, making a judgment on that. And he also noted that it's an open secret in Silicon Valley. This is what Mark Carney said in the interview. Leaders in the tech sector don't allow their children to use social media. They just won't let their children use social media. And a comment from Chamath Palihapitiya comes to mind, who was an early employee at Facebook and has gone on to be fabulously wealthy and invest in all kinds of companies. Very well-known Canadian in Silicon Valley, says, I don't use it. Like, he helped create Facebook, doesn't use it, and doesn't let his children use it either. Just Facebook is one example. Pat is in Kitchener. Hi, Pat. Thanks for waiting, Pat. Go ahead.
Anytime. I think that we can all agree that social media usage, certainly in the younger generation, has the tendency and the capacity to be harmful. It can rewrite brain activity, and these kids have obviously developing brains, and it's quite addictive. And so I think the vast majority of people can agree on that point. I agree that parents should be the primary, let's say, individuals that regulate what goes on in the family home. But we live in a society that really tries to encourage parents to outsource a lot of raising kids. So, for example, we outsource a lot to teachers. We outsource a lot to the government. In this particular case, what I would like to see is before regulating it based on age usage, I would like regulation based on usage itself. So I would like the social media companies to essentially implement mandatory breaks or time caps on the platforms themselves, so that kids can only be on there for, let's say, a maximum of 2 hours a day. And in between those 2 hours, every, let's say, 15 minutes as they're on, for 5 minutes, something educational comes on, so that they have to be attentive, or they have to, run a 5-minute educational, science thing on science or mathematics or something that stimulates them from an educational perspective as well, before we go and put age limits on the actual use of the platform. I would like to regulate the platforms themselves from that perspective.
Okay. I believe the average screen time for children in Canada now is between 4 and 5 hours a day.
Yeah, so reduce it to 2 hours, and then again have like 5-minute chunks that the social media companies have to essentially push something educational to kids.
Right. I'm not saying that's all social media. A lot of it would be social media. It could be playing video games, screen time outside of a classroom setting, screen time outside of classroom setting, between 4 and 5 hours a day on average. And for teenagers, it could be closer to 6-7 hours a day. You would like to see maybe a usage cap, if you will. All right, fair enough. Interesting. Thank you, Pat. Very thoughtful as always. Be right back with more of your calls. An age limit to have a social media account in Canada. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should there be an age limit on having a social media account in Canada? That's what we've been asking you today. Opinion all over the map on this one. We're thinking the same way there are age limits on all kinds of other things, whether it's the consumption of tobacco products or alcohol or cannabis or gambling. What about social media accounts? 1-833-668-2577. 3-4 lines available there for you. Let's go to Brett, who's in Kitchener today. Hi, Brett.
Hello.
Hi, Brett.
I'm an 05, so I feel like I can speak on this really well. I feel like even if you put a cap, an age limit on social media, kids are still going to find their way around it, just like every other app that has an age limit. I know Discord has a terms of service of 13, and I've seen people as young as the age of 8 on there. But I also feel like the whole cyberbullying part of it, you put an age limit, it's not going to stop that. Video games are just as bad because you can literally talk to anybody on any console. So, like, I have an Xbox. I can literally talk to someone on PlayStation, and they can talk vice versa, no matter what, even if you don't have online set up. So, I agree that we should have one, but I also don't think it'll stop.
You don't think it'll work? You don't think it'll work? What if you had to upload a piece of government ID?
Well, I know lots of people who have fake IDs and everything.
Right.
And so
Okay.
they're just going to find their way around it, I think.
You think they'll find their way around it? It'd be impossible to police, would be your opinion, right?
I think there would be some who listen to it, like you do drinking and everything. But I also know some people who, just because they looked older, they made a fake ID and then they broke the rules anyway.
Right. Okay. Hard to enforce. But you would support it if it was enforceable, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but you're saying it's totally impossible to enforce. Okay, fair enough. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I mean, I don't know. I've always had this idea. There's going to come a time when we're going to think, this is my own opinion, that it was ridiculous that we let our children near these social media platforms that have behaved and have a clear pattern of behavior like the big tobacco of our times. You know, if you put it on a list, all of the harmful things that come from social media and the overabundance of screen time, is really any of this up for debate anymore? The anxiety, the depression, the low self-esteem, the envy, or what I guess the term now is, social comparison. Children feeling as though they don't measure up with the perfect Instagram lives that they see people living online. FOMO, fear of missing out, that drives dangerous behavior, loneliness, social isolation, attention span issues, sleeping issues, cyberbullying. You know, the idea that the bullying doesn't stop, you know, in the classroom or in the hallway or after school. It just follows the child now, because the child is always on and always connected, and it never ends. Exposure to child predators, exposure to harmful content, pornography, extremism, online hate, peer pressure. I mean, if you had to do it all over again, you know, these companies we have this great product. Yeah, there are some downsides. You know, would the government really come back and say, yeah, have a free-for-all? No restrictions whatsoever if you had to do it all over again and build a regulatory environment from scratch? Because you think about it right now, there are no restrictions at all on who can and can't have a social media account. Meta doesn't want one and has told its lobbyists in Ottawa, you make sure the politicians are aware we don't want one. And that the only thing Meta would accept is some kind of age verification system at the App Store level, which is essentially shifting the responsibility over to other companies like Apple and Google. Okay, you take care of that. We don't want to be exposed to it. What we have said in this country is basically, we'll just trust these companies to police themselves. And some of them, as Brett just said in Kitchener, have age verification systems, 13. But as Brett also pointed out, whatever measures are in place aren't very effective because they don't want them to be effective. Now, as I mentioned, one of the other countries that is doing this is Australia. The age limit's coming into force in just a few weeks from now, 16 years old. You have to be 16 years old before you can have a social media account. You can link your bank account information to your social media account because your bank knows how old you are. Government ID could be used. You upload it. Your driver's license, a passport, some other form of government ID, maybe facial recognition. But the thing is, the platforms that are found to be violating the rules and still allowing people under the age of 16 onto these platforms would face fines of $50 million, which is real money. Even for the tech giants, $50 million is a lot of money. And all of it's supposed to be in place just a few weeks from now, starting the second week of December. They're doing it there. Should we do the same thing here? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. And have your say on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What do you think about age limits for social media accounts in Canada? You must be 16 to have a Facebook account or an X account or a TikTok account or to be on Instagram or Snap. What would you think of that? 1-833-668-2577. Back to our callers now. John is in Kitchener. Hi, John.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, John. How are you?
Good. Even on a
very good, John.
terrible weather day, but that's okay. My thoughts are, when 20, 25 years ago, I classified myself fairly tech savvy. Like, you're hooked up at home, I could go do that for you and wire your house for sound and before Bluetooth and all that. Now I find myself in a position where my kids know more tech stuff than I do. When I run into a problem on a computer or whatever, even my phone, I go to my kids to help me with that. So kids are always going to find a way to get around it, especially nowadays. They have the computers and everything at their disposal from kindergarten on, if not before, right? So I agree with having an age limit. Now, whether you have it be stuff that the parents sign them up for and give consent for them to be on, whatever. Kids, I find they are very social awkward nowadays, it seems. And even my own in certain situations, right? I notice them to be a little awkward when it comes to socializing. Or even my daughter, for years, she couldn't talk to an answering machine. She'd get all freaked out and just hang up. She wouldn't leave a message for anybody, But one thing I found helped them with that was keeping them busy, keeping them in sports and things where they're interacting with kids, not just at school, right? But I agree with having an age limit for certain things. Kids are always going to find a way around it. Back in our day, it was easy enough to get a fake ID to get in and buy yourself some beer or something, right? That was our big concern. But nowadays, it's like everything has to do with tech and
right. So now that version of the older brother or the older friend who would sneak into whatever the liquor store or the beer store to buy that beer is now, or would be under this scenario, the one signing you up for a social media account.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So that's why I maybe have it up to a parental consent thing where, there's ways that the parent has to prove that it's them and that they're okay with it. I'm not all about sharing all your information with everybody either, but
sure.
There's got to be a point, right?
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Thank you. You think they'll find a way around it? You would support it, but you think they'll find a way around it. It is a very, very popular opinion today. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. I just believe the people who built the apps, like Sean Parker, for example, who created Napster and then went on to be a big time early player in the development of Facebook. Remember, Justin Timberlake played him in the movie Social Network. He was very upfront. We built it because we knew you would become addicted to it, because you would be in this social validation feedback loop. And now the research so many years later say that, there's no doubt it plays with people's mind. It's designed to stimulate your brain and to make you so that you want to keep coming back for more. Imagine the impact that has on a young child's brain. And they have accumulated these studies now that would fill libraries. They could show you graphs. 7:00 in the morning, people wake up. Huge spike in the use of phones. Between 6 and 7 in the morning, bam, social media explodes. Peaks at noon. Plateaus around 8:00 at night. Tapers off around 11:00. They've tracked it. They can show you. And some of the people, to Mr. Carney's point, in the interview he did with Toronto Life, where he says he's talked to people in Silicon Valley, they don't let their children anywhere near social media. Some of the people who helped create Facebook and other social media platforms, I mean, in the years since, they are filled with this regret of this genie that they've let out the bottle. And how they just strictly control access not only to social media, but to smartphone devices for their own children. Justin Rosenstein, I don't know if you've ever heard that name, but he banned himself from Snapchat. He self-imposes limits on Facebook, parental controls on his phone. He created the like button for Facebook. Back in 2007, when Facebook was first started, it didn't have a like button. It didn't have many users either. At about 60 million users. He slapped a like button on it so users could like postings. Boom. 1 year later, 60 million users. 2 years later, 400 million users. Just the like button. Because we like to be liked. We like it when people like us and like our posts and share our posts. That's where this term, social validation feedback loop, comes from. We like to be validated. And children really like to be validated. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have been asking, should there be an age limit for having a social media account in Canada? Far from unanimous one way or the other, opinion all over the place on this. Some have people have no trust of the government. Some people have no trust of the ability to police such a measure. And some people think there should be a ban not only on an age limit on social media, but also on the use of a smartphone itself. And that there's no need for young children to even have access to a smartphone with a data plan. So opinions have been all over the place. We've heard lots of counter arguments today. And there are lots of counter arguments. One thing I've learned as we've talked about this over the years is, and we've heard it today, let the parents decide. Let the parents decide. We don't need the government regulating everything. A few weeks ago, we talked about the nanny state. Some people suggest this would just be another step toward a nanny state. And if the parents think it's okay for their children to be on social media at whatever age, 11, 12, 13, and they think they can police what their children are doing online, then that is the choice of the parents. And there are lots of tools out there that can help parents monitor the social media use of their children. And there's really no role for the government. And the government doesn't need to be involved here. This should be done at home. It's the parents' responsibility. We heard that one a lot today. Another one is, whether we like it or not, it's a brave new world. And whether we like it or not, this is where children hang out. This is where the socialization is happening these days, on social media with this age cohort. If you move to restrict a child's access to social media, you'll actually be cutting them off from their social circle. This is where they meet their friends. This is where they hang out. This is where the action is. And maybe we don't get it sometimes, and maybe there can be dangers to it. But if we were all of a sudden to cut children off from accessing social media, they might actually become more socially isolated. That is another counter argument. What else? There are some who think, and we've heard this from someone today, it's a creative outlet. Being on social media can be actually good for children. It can give some children a chance to develop whatever their online personality. It's an outlet for them to express themselves, a creative outlet for them. It can be good for them to learn how platforms work, express an interest in whatever they're interested in, how to use online tools effectively. It could be an outlet for them to develop important skills that could be useful to them as they grow older. And we shouldn't be so heavy-handed as to limit that by, say, imposing an age restriction. That's another counter argument. And the most popular one today was it won't work. It just won't work. Just like for generations, children have been finding ways to get around restrictions, whether that is smoking cigarettes or underage drinking or smoking pot underage. The same thing would happen with whatever age verification system would be set up to stop children from accessing social media. They will find a way around it. They'll get their older friends to do it for them. Just like their older brothers or older friends used to sneak in the liquor store for previous generations. And if anything, if you ban it for them, it might just even be more attractive to them. Some things we've heard over the years and some things we heard today on Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. Back tomorrow. Brand new topic, more of your calls, and always the latest breaking news. This is News Radio.